Welcome, everyone. I'm actually recording this share at 3 minutes to 1 a.m. in the morning. And I'm doing it, it's the special segment for the Shabbos table for Parshas Metzora. It's, of course, right before Pesach, and it's very busy. And tonight we did two blot in the very difficult sugya of Tagre Lud in Metzora, and we did a chok last night, and we had this pre-Shabbos Agadol drasha. So I wanted this to be available for people already before Shabbos, so I'm recording it in the middle of the night. This segment is made possible by a grant by the Rubin family. And they asked that we should be mispalel, that they should have a ben zacher, healthy ben zacher. It's a good time. Before the Manishtana, the Gdei Admorim say that before Manishtana it says Kana ben Shail, and they say that this also means here is a good place to ask for a son, so that he should be able to ask Manishtana. They should be zeichet to that, and Tatzach and Ruchnius and Gashmias. Parshas Metzora, the Gemara in Arachin discusses different sins that could lead to tzaras, and the number one sin is Kishmoy Kenhu. Metzora is Motzi Ra, when a person says evil, and that means the sin of Lashon Hara. And the sin of Lashon Hara could cause a person to have the spiritual sickness known as tzaras, which is very revealing because it's very rare that we say that a person is not worthy for society. But a Metzora is sent completely outside of the camps. And it says, Boda Yeshev. He should dwell alone, Michutz L'machana Moishavai, outside of the camp. It's fascinating because in society, the person who has a lot to say and is, so to speak, in the know, and he can give you the scoop, is the belle of the ball. He's, he's the big man at the party. But the truth of the matter is that he or she who spills things about other people is not fit for society. That's the great lesson of tzaras. A person that talks about other people is not fit for society because Lashon Hara is so ruinous. The Yerushalmi in Peah, in the beginning of Peah, says that the three worst sins are Avodah Zarah, Gilui Arayos, and Shvichas Damar. Idolatry, immorality, like adultery, and murder. But then it says a shocking thing, V'Lashon Hara keneged kulam. And Lashon Hara is worse than all of them. At the end of Shemana Esrei, we say, Yiratzim Ofanecha Hashem Elokeinu v'Elokeinu v'Yiseinu She'yabana Beis Hamikdash b'mheira v'yameinu. We say, Hashem, our tefillah corresponds to the Karbanos, but we don't want second best. May it be, at the end of our davening, we say, please Hashem, She'yabana Beis Hamikdash b'mheira v'yameinu, so that we could do the real thing, the Karbanos. And then we say an interesting thing, V'sein chalkeinu b'sarasecha. Give us our portion in your Torah. Now that's a little bit mysterious. We don't have a portion in Torah now. Why is the Torah linked to the Beis Hamikdash? We have to know that at the time of the Beis Hamikdash, we had very strong motivation to keep the Torah. And one of the examples I always give is the example of tzaras. Here you have, let's take an example. We'll say Mrs. Schwarzkopf. Mrs. Schwarzkopf is making a weekend bar mitzvah for her darling son, Tzvi Menachem. And, at the bar mitzvah, they're having a big crowd. And she sits with her husband, and she says, we got to do the table settings. We got to figure out where everybody's going to sit. So they're sitting and making the tables. And she says to her husband, where we're going to put Rose? Nobody likes her. She only speaks about herself. I don't know. We have to invite her, but who should we inflict her upon? And her husband says, look, she's not so bad. No, she's not so bad. She's worse. She's full of herself. Nobody likes to listen to her. And, come to think about it, where we're going to put Uncle Chaim. He smells. I don't know. Should we put a table outside for him? I mean, I should bring a bottle of perfume and douse him. Otherwise, I don't know how anybody could sit near him. And then, and then we really have a problem. What are we going to do? Yeah, what are we going to do with Shmuel? Yeah, Shmuel, he always says the wrong thing. I mean, he's as tactless as a kid come. Anyway, they finally figure out the tables, and she's getting ready to go to sleep, and she looks on her arm, and she sees some strange discoloration. And she says, this is no good. I'm wearing a 3/4 sleeve. I can't have this show at the bar mitzvah. I better go to the dermatologist. She goes to the dermatologist. The dermatologist takes one look at it and he says, it's not my field. So she says, what do you mean it's not my field? Well, no, this is not under my purview. Now she started getting scared. Who's he going to send her to? Chas v'sholom, an oncologist. He says to her, no, you have to go right away to the kohen. To the kohen? Yes, he'll know what to do. So she goes to the kohen. The kohen looks at it, has everything there, the white hair and everything. And he says, Mrs. Schwarzkopf, you have to pack your bags. She says, yeah, I know, I am packed. We have a weekend bar mitzvah. He says, no weekend bar mitzvah. You're a Metzoras. You're not going to any bar mitzvah. You have to go outside the camp. She said, what do you mean? It's my son's bar mitzvah. I can't miss my son. I'm sorry. You're a Metzoras. You're not allowed to be around anybody. You have to go out. This is the way it was. And when they lived with that, people fulfilled the Torah differently. That's the meaning of a seichel kind of Metzora. And if you think that's something, I'm going to give you another example, just to make you realize how serious this is. Lila and Yossi. Lila and Yossi, they have a mom and pop grocery store. And they live on top of the store. And they run it together. And in the night, like any cash business, they have to count the cash. And they sit and they count the cash, and they talk about what went on during the day. And Lila is telling Yossi, I always get a kick. I really get a kick out of it when Shapsi comes in. He parks outside the store. It's a late model Jaguar that he's driving. I mean loaded, and he pays with food stamps. I mean, he's not ashamed. You know, he has a Rolex watch. He drives the sharpest car in the area, and he's paying with food stamps. I mean, who is he kidding? So Yossi says, you think that's something? You should see, it really gets me. You should see Shandy. Yeah, Shandy Kovitz. She comes in. She's worried every minute. She's wearing her mink. It shouldn't get stained. She's telling people, watch it. Watch you go. Don't hold that bottle near me. But she leaves her child outside in the carriage. She doesn't watch him. You know, anybody could steal the child. But she's so worried about her mink. Anyway, and they talk shop like this, you know. And one night, you know, Yossi is packing up, and he notices in the corner of the store, on two walls, going one from another, he notices some green and red blotches. He tells his wife, you know, that looks very strange. I hope it's not some kind of a mold. You know, I better call the mold expert. They call the mold expert. He comes down, and he says, I don't like the looks of this. He says, is it bad? He says, it's not really my field. He says, what do you mean? I mean, that's not mold. So what are you worried about? He says, you know, I don't know, it looks strange. It looks menacing. I think you need to have a really, really an expert carpenter to give a look at that. So, okay, he calls Simcha, who's a master craftsman, and Simcha comes down and takes one look at it, and he says, uh-oh. So, uh-oh, what? He says, you better call the Kayin quick. The Kayin? Yeah, that looks to me like tzaras. The Kayin comes down, and he says, everybody out of the house. You can take out what you want. We have to quarantine the house. They quarantine the house for 7 days. The Kayin comes back, he looks grim, and the whole house is spread around the whole house, green and red blotches. He says, I'm sorry. You're sorry? What do you mean you're sorry? We have to tear down the house. Tear down the house? This is our store, our livelihood. We live upstairs. We even tear down. I'm sorry, this is a bayis tzarua. You have to tear down the house. And they tear down their store, their home. This is what happens with Lashon Hara. Lashon Hara is the ruination of our livelihoods. We said last week that the Sefer HaKanah says that today when we don't have tzaras, the punishment for Lashon Hara is poverty. But this is what happens when people talk about other people. And when this was actually in effect, people saw this. You know, there's a pasuk that we learned in the Chok recently. Let's take upes yarim. Let's take upes yarim. The scoffer is smitten, and then the simple people, they become wiser. They see what happened. When we lived with what went on in the Beis Hamikdash, v'sein chalkeinu b'sarasecha, we had a bigger chelik in the Torah. We realized the fact that, you know, like the ditty that I sang in school when I was a little child, Lashon Hara Lamed Hey, go to Gehenim the easy way. This was a reality. You know, the Metzora, it says, the Metzora Tomei Yikra. He calls out to people, I'm Tomei. And the Mefarshim explain, because he's in a big predicament, he needs Rachmei Shemayim, that his tzaras should be healed in order to come back to society. But he can't pray, because since he sinned with his mouth, Ein Kateger Nasa Saneger, a prosecutor can't become a defender. So therefore he calls out Tamei Yikra. And therefore, we have to know, we want Hashem to listen to our prayers, whether it's for health, whether it's for parnasa, whether it's for shalom bayis, whether it's for nachas from children. We want Hashem to listen to our prayers. But if we're riddled with lashon hara, then our mouths are ineffective. Ein kateger nasa saneger. The Manchester Rosh Hashiva says that when we say before Baruch Shamar, Hareini mizamen espi, lahoidois ulahalal shaberachas boiri, he says the way to prepare our mouths to give thanks and to sing to our Creator is to cleanse them from lashon hara, is to not to speak bad about other people. It's a remarkable thing. At the end of the Shemona Esrei, after Sim Shalom, and after saying Yil Ratz and Imri Fi, we say a special prayer of Elikai Netzar. Actually, the Gemara in Brachas on Daf Yud Zayin Amud Beis records 12 personal prayers. This prayer of Elikai Netzar was the prayer of Marbrei de Ravina, and Klal Yisrael adopted this one of the 12 as what we say every day after Shemona Esrei. It's interesting that in the Imrei Shefer, it brings down that the Chassam Sofer said all 12 personal prayers. Although he was learning all the time, and every minute for learning was precious, but he davened all 12 of the prayers. We daven this one, the Tefillah of Marbrei de Ravina, and it starts with a request to ask Hashem for help in avoiding a sin. As a matter of fact, the Avud Raham says that although the choice to do right or wrong is dependent on us, because Hakol b'dei Shemayim chutz miyirah Shemayim, everything is in the hands of heaven except the fear of heaven. That's our job. But he says that it is proper hishtadlus to ask Hashem for help. And of all the 365 negative prohibitions, there's 365 negative prohibitions, we ask Hashem for help for one of them. It's interesting, we would think we would ask Hashem, Shabbos is so intricate with 39 malachas, and those are just the principles, and there's many toldos. And the Mishnah Berurah says in Hakdama to the third chelek of Mishnah Berurah that if we don't study the laws of Shabbos, it's impossible to be a complete Shomer Shabbos. So we would think we would ask Hashem, help me to keep Shabbos. I should know what's Bayer, I should know what's Muktzah, so many different types of Muktzah, Mukmas Machmas Isser, Muktzah Machmas Chson Kiss, Muktzah Machmas Gufay. There's so many different types of Muktzah, and the laws of Bishul are so intricate. We don't ask Hashem for help to keep Shabbos. We don't ask Hashem for help to keep Taras HaMishpacha. We don't ask Hashem for help to keep kashrus and not to eat bugs. And we don't know. Elikai Netzar l'shoni meira. My God, guard my tongue from speaking evil. Usfasai medaber mirma. And my lips for speaking deceit. That we ask Hashem for help. It's interesting, the Shalach Kaddish says, because the Gemara in Bava Basra and Daf Kuf Samach Daled Amud Beis says that v'kulan ba'avak lashon hara, everybody is guilty of some dust of lashon hara. So everybody needs this. But it's also, as I said before, the Yerushalmi says that lashon hara keneged kulam. Remember that Tavi was asked, Tavi the Eved, the wise Eved, was asked to bring the best food, and he brought tongue. He was asked to bring the worst food, and he brought tongue. Because tongue could be the very best and the very worst. The very best, Hakol Kol Yaakov, Ki Chayim Heim L'Motza'ayim, it's life to those that utter, Ki Heim Chayeinu V'Archimenu, words of Torah, words of Tefillah, words of kindness, Teres Chesed Al Hashem. But the tongue could be the worst. Lashon hara is the ruination of the individual. It's the ruination of the soul. And therefore we ask Hashem, it's interesting that the Chavetz Chaim in Chayvus in Shmiras Haloshin, Chelik Beis, Perak Aleph, in the Hagah, in the footnote, he writes that we're going to ask in Elikain Metzora, Psach libi b'seireisecha, u'b'mitzvah tirudef nafshi. Open my heart to your Torah. Open my heart to your Torah. The Siddur Mefurish says that I should understand it. Open my heart to your Torah, that I should have a cheshik to learn. Open my heart to the Torah, that I should taste the sweetness of Torah, of Arevna Hashem Elokeinu, es direi sarascha b'finu. But says the Chavetz Chaim, before asking for Torah, we say, please Hashem, protect me from speaking bad. Because he says, listen to this, it will make you shiver in your boots. Without protecting our mouths, ein Torasai nechsheves l'klum. The Torah is not worth anything. It's like putting something good in a dirty cup. There has to be the preface of having a clean mouth. This is oh so important. The Eitz Yosef brings down from a big tzaddik, from Rabbi Yehuda Tzvi Meminsk. We know in Alakai Metzora, we say v'nafshi ka'ofer lakol tiyah. Our soul should be like earth, lowly, humble, and we say psach libi b'seireisecha. So he explains the connection to Alakai Metzora as follows. He says, we ask Hashem, guard my tongue from evil. But what happens if I mess up? So the Gemara in Arachim, the Gemara says in Arachim Tesvav, Amid Aleph, that if a person speaks Lashon Hara, the refuah is to learn Torah. And he says if he's not capable, then he should be Yashbel Atzmai. He should humble himself. So therefore we say, if I mess up, so please, I should be able to practice humility, and I should be able to open my heart to your Torah. We know that this is a very big part of Pesach. Pesach is Pesach. The mouth talks properly. It's a correction of what caused us to go down to Mitzrayim, the Dibarah, the evil tidings of Yosef. It's the antithesis of Paro, Perah, the foul mouth of Paro. I want to tell you that as I'm speaking tonight, Eretz Israel is attacking Iran, and it's a time of great sakana, because Iran has weapons that could reach into Yerushalayim HaKodesh, could reach into Bnei Brak. It's very scary, it's very frightening. There's something we could do. When a Yid guards his tongue, that's a big offering to the Rebbeinu Shalom. Who wants to see good? If Klal Yisrael would work on guarding their tongue for evil, that's a schus to see good. I want to tell you one other thing. There's some people that they don't have hatzlacha in making friends. Why is that? You have to know every morning people daven in the Yirotzen after Amar V'Sheina, V'har chikeinu me odom ra o me chavara. Distance me from a bad person and a bad friend. If you're talking Lashon Hara, you would make a bad friend. And people pray not to become a friend of yours. They pray, Harchikeinu me'adam ra. You have to, we have to, I'm talking to myself as to you. We all want good friends. We have to become a chaver tov. We can't talk about other people, you know. Let me tell you what's going on in the neighborhood. Let me tell you what's going on in shul. You want to hear the scoop? No, we can't do that. We can't talk bad about people. Why aren't you getting along with your sisters? You can't talk bad. Because your sister, if you're going to talk bad about other family members, you're a chavera, you're a sister. This is insanely important. And remember, if we want our tefillas to be effective, we have to have a kosher mouth. And therefore, that's what we learn. You know, people think Metzora, it's not negeya, it's all about leprosy. It is very negeya. This lesson, that if a person is not, if talking about people that are not fit for society, be careful at the Seder. I heard a story, a terrible story, that a wife by the Seder stole the Afikaiman and asked the husband that he should be nice to her. Now, of course, the story is sad in many ways. If the wife is so desperate to do that, he must really be not nice to her. But also she said it in front of the children, embarrassed her husband, spoke Lashon Hara. Lashon Hara is when it's true. We have to be very careful. We have to make a commitment. Ribbono Shel Olam, please, I want good friends. I want my prayers to be effective. I want to liros tov. I want to see good. I'm going to work on guarding my tongue. It's not instinctive. It's not instinctive. I'll tell you another thing. You have to choose your friends wisely. There are friends that are a lot of fun. But fun is not equated with good. They're fun, and you can have a lot of fun with them. But they're talking bad about people. They're talking behind people's back. They're fun. But fun could be wicked. Fun doesn't necessarily mean good. You have to have good friends. You have to have ehrlich friends. We have to be ehrlich friends. I want to thank the Rubin family again for making this year possible. I want to take the opportunity now, as we're entering the portals of Pesach, to wish everybody a very inspirational Pesach, a Pesach where we could pass the torch to the next generation and forge another link in the chain that's been going throughout the ages, connecting us to the generation of Yetzias Mitzrayim. And just like Hashem saved us from Mitzrayim, He should save us from our enemies, and we should see the Gula Shlema b'mheir v'yameinu. Have a good Shabbos and a good Yom Tov.